Today, I'm going to show you how I'm using Claude as my AI partner to help develop the program, and I'll give you a behind-the-scenes look into Claude Projects and how I utilize it for course development. If you've been following along, this is episode 3 of Building My Program series, where I share the behind-the-scenes process of how I'm developing my Transform Your Trauma Therapy Practice 8-week coaching program. If we haven't met before, I'm Kristen, and I help trauma therapists recover from burnout and transform their practices into successful businesses they love. An update from the last episode where I shared my struggle with Module 3 policies. I hope you'd be happy to hear that I've nearly completed it. I went down a bit of a transference, countertransference rabbit hole that was honestly really helpful. The video content for the module now is more focused on why policies are so hard to implement and less on the details of the policies themselves. I also shared that I was going to utilize Claude Skills to help me create a tool that helps you with the policy or helps you with writing the policies. And I'm working on putting that together now. So I'm excited to include that as part of the program. Today, I thought I would share with you a little more about Claude and how I'm utilizing it for program development. So you may be wondering a little bit about why I work with Claude and not ChatGPT or Google's Gemini. I've just found that Claude is really better at writing, and it really helps me to develop my program ideas more effectively. So like all the models, Claude has a free plan, but if you want to use the Claude Projects feature that I'll talk about here, you will need to pay for the Pro plan, which is around $20 a month. Claude Projects are organized workspaces where you can keep everything related to a specific task or topic in one place. I like to think of Claude Projects as very similar to a folder that you utilize on your computer. So if you have a topic for a folder in your computer and you put all information regarding that topic in that folder, that's a very similar thing with a Claude project, except for you'll be able to talk to and work with all that information that you've put in that project folder, and it will evolve as you evolve the program. So here's what you'll find inside a Claude project. Chats. Each project maintains its own conversation history, so all the chats related to my TYTTP program are under that project folder. The second thing is memory. Claude uses a memory summary to capture all of the memories in one place for you to view and edit. It consolidates it at the end of the day and updates the memory so that if you shift or change your program, if you're using it for program development, then Claude will update the memory when it consolidates it that night. The next section is files. So you can upload any relevant documents, text, or other files to the project knowledge base, which Claude will use to better understand the context and background for your individual chats within that project. And the next thing we can put in our Claude project are custom instructions. You can define project instructions for each project, which really tailors Claude's responses. And let's get into that a little bit more detail because there are a lot of important components you can put in Claude instructions, which really make utilizing Claude projects really robust and helpful. What I found about instructions is the more refined instructions, the better the output is going to be. So let's talk a little bit about the essential components for the instructions piece of your Claude project. The first is going to be a role definition, and you want to define who Claude is in this project context. So giving Claude a specific role helps it to understand the perspectives and expertise level to bring to its response. So for example, you're an expert course designer with deep knowledge of adult learning principles, or you're a skilled editor who helps therapists refine their writing while maintaining their authentic voice. Giving Claude a role is a really critical, important part of setting up a good project. The second is to give it some primary objectives. So what are the goals or outcomes that you want from this project? And this really helps Claude prioritize what's most important when making decisions or suggestions. Some examples would be transform long-form content into platform-optimized social media posts, or edit scripts for clarity and conciseness while preserving the creator's authentic voice. The third section is audience or target user. So who is the end user or who the audience is for the work created in this project? So this really helps to ensure that Claude tailors language, complexity, and approach appropriately. So some examples here would be all content is for trauma therapists who are experiencing burnout and need practical business solutions. Or content should speak directly to busy clinicians who have limited time for implementation. 4 is voice tone and guidelines. So how the content should sound and feel. This maintains consistency across all outputs and ensures brand alignment. So, really understanding your unique voice and how you speak to your population. So, some examples would be use a warm, collegial tone like a trusted peer who's figured something out, not an expert talking down. Or be validating and empathetic while remaining solution focused. Number 5 would be content constraints and preferences. Specific do's and don'ts for formatting, style, and structure. This will prevent Claude from defaulting to patterns that you don't want to use. And specifically, sometimes some patterns related to things that are really cued into AI content, such as avoid using M dashes excessive bullet points, or overly formatted responses. Or when editing, suggest changes rather than rewriting entire sections. Or break complex business concepts into digestible, bite-sized pieces. So number 6 are key frameworks or methodologies that you want the project to adhere to. So specific approaches, models, or frameworks that Claude should apply or reference. This ensures consistency in how concepts are presented and how problems are solved. For example, in my work, I've created a few frameworks that I utilize in creating some structure around the program. So I'll say always apply the each communication framework when reviewing content, or use the value-based pricing framework when discussing rate setting. Number 7 would be workflow preferences. And this is where you share with Claude how you prefer to work with Claude in this project. This helps to streamline collaboration and prevents that frustrating back and forth with Claude. Here's some that I always use. Always ask clarifying questions before providing detailed answers. When asked to draft something, create an outline first. Or please always suggest edits, do not rewrite my material. Or if editing existing content, highlight changes and explain reasoning. Number 8 is reference materials, which uploaded documents should inform Claude's responses. This refers to the files. We want to ensure that Claude pulls from your specific resources rather than generic knowledge. Some examples of this would be always refer to the TYTTP brand guidelines when creating any marketing or program content. Or use the course outline document as a source of truth for model structure. Or reference client testimonials and case studies when developing examples. Number 9 are output specifications, and this may or may not be something you need to include, but it's really the technical requirements for deliverables. And it ensures that whatever output Claude gives you, it's immediately usable without reformatting. So some examples of this would be Instagram carousel posts should be 8 to 10 slides with 10 to 12 words per slide. Or a blog post should be 800 to 1200 words with clear section headers. And the last one is quality standards. What does good enough look like versus what needs to be exceptional? And this matters because it helps Claude understand when to push for perfection versus when to prioritize speed. Some examples here would be accuracy and ethical considerations always trump clever marketing. Or when in doubt, choose clarity over creativity. Just a little pro tip here, you don't need to include every single category in every project. Choose the ones that are most relevant to your specific use case. Start with the role, primary objectives, and audience as your foundation, and then add others as needed. So now I'd like to take a look at my Claude setup, and we're going to create a new project together. Okay, so here we are in my Claude projects, and you can see how I have multiple projects here. I have one for my newsletters and YouTube videos, one for my membership, one for the foundations, which is what is the program that I'm talking about in this series. But today I wanted to do is just create a new project so that you can see how to do that from scratch and how I would set it up from the beginning. And so the first step we have to do is name our project. And so what I'm going to do is create a demonstration project. Let's talk about doing SEO for therapists. So this is really just a little description just so you remember what the project's about. I'm going to say developing trainings for therapists regarding SEO best practices. And we're going to create the project here. This is the chat section. This is where we'll do chats regarding the project. The memory is the one that I was talking about that gets updated just for you. So that has nothing in it right now. Instructions are what we're going to add, and files are what we're going to add. If we look over here, we get the 3 dots. We can just edit the details, or let's say we wanted to delete the project altogether. we can do that as well. And you can star it and favorite it so it shows up on your favorites. For this, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about how it would work. So let us add in some instructions. And as we talked about before, the best practices for the instructions, I did about 10 kind of ideas of things that you should have in your instructions. And I created it for this project. So the project I'm working on here is you're a patient practical SEO educator who specializes in helping mental health professionals get found online. You translate technical search concepts into approachable, jargon-free language and to understand that your audience may feel overwhelmed by marketing technology. So I've given it the role. I've talked about the objective, which would be to teach foundational SEO concepts in plain language that trauma therapists can understand. So this is a training that I'm not technically developing, but it's one that I think is needed. And, maybe this will be one that I do down the road somewhere. I've said the audience are licensed trauma therapists in private back practice, and most are complete beginners to SEO, right? They're clinically excellent, but have little to no marketing or technical background. What is the voice and tone? Our voice and tone is going to be encouraging and patient, like tech-savvy friend explaining something over coffee. Use analogies that connect, never condescending or overly simplistic. We talk about content constraints, break concepts into small digestible pieces, key concepts to cover. So these are the concepts that I want the training to cover. And then workflow preferences when asked to explain a concept, check the learner's current understanding before diving deeper, these sorts of things. Quality standards, accuracy is essential, never guess. If something is speculative or rapidly changing, especially with GEO, say so. Prioritize practical usefulness over comprehensive coverage. And so here's some of the things the project does not cover. I was able to do this pretty quickly, so I'm going to copy it all and I'm going to paste it over here into my instructions. And then I'm going to save the instructions. And the reason I was able to do it really quickly is because I did create a skill in Claude on how to create instructions for a Claude project, which was very cool. And that is definitely something I'm going to share with people in the program, because writing those instructions, I know it can seem detailed and overwhelming because of the skill that I created. It took me less than 5 minutes. I just had to do some little back and forth with Claude around the skill and said, this is the instructions I needed, and it gave me all of that. Claude skill is pretty cool. So files. We'd add any relevant PDFs or other files, things, text that we want, we can add to this file list. I have done a quick research process on Google Notebook LM, which I will also be doing. I'll probably be doing a much deeper dive into Google Notebook LM for trauma therapists because it's insanely helpful for our training and understanding complex topics. I've already collected some resources around SEO because it's something I've been wanting to work on anyway for trauma therapists. So I had it do a little research for me on some of the best practices. This is a file. As you can see, it's a Google Doc. So what I'm going to go over here in Claude, and there's a couple ways I can get that information in here. I can upload it from my device so I can go right into my files and pull it down. I could have copied it and pasted it in here, or I have my Google Drive connected through a connector in Claude. So it will pop up my most recent ones, but I can also search for it. So this is going to be the SEO sample document, and I'm just going to add that because that one includes SEO best practices with the research that I had done. Okay, so 1% of my file project capacity is used here by this one document. So you have tons of room to store things. Now we start to go into a conversation with Claude about developing this training. I would like to say, can you help me develop an outline of a 2-hour training on SEO for trauma therapists? It's like super simple prompt. Let's see what we get back. One of the things that I have set up in my basic Claude instructions for all of Claude is always ask me clarifying questions before moving on. And really, I set that up basically because I do really simple prompts. So I would like Claude to ask me a lot of questions before it moves on. So it's going to ask me audience experience level. Are these therapists complete beginners? So here's where I'm going to respond in this chat. I'm going to say complete beginners, understand Google business profile. And then I would do training format. Let's do lecture based with handouts and time for Q&A. 3, primary goals. What do you most want participants to walk away with? Let's say confident in understanding SEO. And technical setup. It will be an online course through Zoom. And let's see, number 5 would be specific focus areas, breaking down technical SEO into simple, understandable terms. And I will be delivering the presentation. So there I go. I hit enter, and Claude is going to go off and think about what I have just given it. And let's see what it comes back with. It's giving me an outline now, giving me an introduction, polling. I'll talk about training objectives. Okay, segment 1 is SEO foundations, understanding how search works. What is it? It's suggesting handouts here. Segment 2, keyword strategy made simple. See how it's building this whole program for me? Segment 3, technical SEO demystified. Segment 4, segment 5, right? Open Q&A, closing, suggested handouts. I can continue to go back and forth with Claude, refining this content. So let's say I've gone back and forth with Claude and I've decided, yes, this is the outline that I want to use. I can say, okay, this looks good. Can you finalize it into a document that I can add to the files in this project? Okay. So this is not how I would normally do it. I would have gone back and forth. I would have pulled all that down. The way I honestly do it would be I would have copied and pasted it, put it in a Google document, walked through it and been like, okay, does this work? Does this work? Then I would have taken all my edits from that Google document, uploaded it back to this chat and said, this is what I'd like the outline to look like. And then I would have uploaded that file to this project. See how now off to this right, I've been given a file and I have this button up here to copy it. So if I wanted to copy it and put it over into a Google Doc, I could, but I'm going to add it to the project. Okay. So now it was added to my SEO project. This is now what we've agreed. This is going to be the whole program. And so now it's in the files section of the project folder. I'll show you that. If we come back here and we look at the files, see how it's the SEO training handout for 2 hours, it's in here. Now, as I'm working with Claude, it's going to utilize that. And you'll also see this is the last chat that we were in where we did develop the outline. The next step would be, okay, let's begin to develop a more in-depth segment 1. This is exactly what I would do if I were creating a project. I would go and say, all right, so now that we have the outline down, now I want to do a deeper dive into segment 1. And as you can see here, because I tell Claude, and you always must ask me clarifying questions, that is ask 5 more clarifying questions. So how technical do you want to get? Should I include specific examples of trauma therapy searches? Interactive elements, how would you like me to build those? What's the timeline? What's the authority section? So now I can begin to really go into a deeper dive into segment 1. Let's say I'll say, you know what? I decided I don't want to do a poll. Let's just say I'd like to remove the interactive elements. And so now it's going to come back and it will, again, thank you for the clarification, but I still have a few more questions, but it comes back to the questions. And so now I'm going to be able to answer those questions and we'll go back and forth. And so once I have good outline for this, then it's also the same thing. I might copy and paste it over into a Google Doc where I can edit it and tweak it and put it in my language. The most important thing I have found with utilizing Claude is that component of coming over to a Google Doc and writing it so that it's coming out of my voice and then bringing it back in here and asking it for edits. I think that is probably the most helpful way of working so that it retains your voice. Otherwise, I could have Claude really write this whole thing for me, but it's not going to feel like it comes from me. It's not going to be authentic. It's not going to utilize my brain and my knowledge. So using it as a partner is the most important piece here. Because if I'm utilizing it as a partner, I'm taking all of my knowledge and say like, no, trauma therapists don't think about things this way. We think about things this way. And we need a process that works this way, not what Claude gave me. And so that's where I go back and forth. And once I have it down in my head and then I can copy and paste it back in here, now please re-edit it. I hope that's helpful and that makes some sense. So that's a little bit about Claude Projects and how you could utilize it to develop your program. You can use it if you're creating your website content, maybe creating blog posts or other marketing materials or even social media posts. I mean, there's so much we can do. The more you utilize Claude or utilize Claude Projects, the more it knows and understands your business, the more efficient and effective it's going to be at helping you in whatever your business goals are. If you are interested in learning more about how I use AI in my business, please drop a comment below. I would love to do a deeper dive in how to help trauma therapists with utilizing AI to be better therapists and to be able to increase their presence of their business and attract more clients. If you stayed till the end, thank you. I really appreciate it. Just a reminder, the best way to support me would be to like the video and hit subscribe below. If you're interested in the Transform Your Trauma Therapy Practice program, which is an 8-week coaching program for trauma therapists who are looking to turn burnout into balance, and where we work on your business and all aspects and areas of your business, from fee setting all the way through to marketing. The next launch will be in early 2026. If you're interested, there is a wait list, and I'll link into the show notes here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.